Good morning, Bante.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Everyone සරණයි හාමුදුරුවනේ.
Good morning.
ඒකට පස්සේ
Good morning.
join වුණේ අද.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay,
Okay? You are ready?
here we go.
Here you go. Let us begin with our metta meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here. Not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires from sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought in mind, let us begin our practice. We pay attention to our breath, which is very natural, normal, just pure breath, which is the common denominator of all living beings, so neutral and so universal, impartial, without using any words or concepts. We simply focus our mind on this very simple breath that we breathe in and out, or that goes in and out. As we breathe in, we feel the breath touching our nostrils, expanding our lower abdomen and chest area. As we breathe out, lower abdomen contracts, chest area contracts, and we feel the breath leaving our nostrils. When this happens, every time breath goes in and out. And then we notice the sensation of feeling of breath, and then perception of breath, thought of the breath, consciousness of the breath. They all happen when we breathe in and we breathe out. What we notice when we breathe in is no longer there when we breathe out. The feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness change as the breath goes out. There we don't find anything static or fixed or remaining without change, meaning that everything is in a state of flux, moving, changing, appearing and disappearing. When the mind gets used to this very quickly, the notion or thought of holding on to anything will vanish from our mind. and that is where we say the greed fades away. And then the body relaxes, the breath relaxes, mind relaxes. In the relaxed state of body, breath and mind, we feel metta feeling in us. When we are rigid, uptight, no metta feeling can arise in that state of mind. Then also as metta arises, metta feeling arises, we also notice compassion arises and any restlessness and worry fades away. Then that is where compassion arises. When compassion arises, we become even more energetic. Spiritual energy arises in us. We get more encouragement and look forward to this practice, and now sleepiness and drowsiness fades away. When we see all these very positive natural results of our practice, this is the nature of Dhamma. These happenings are the characters of Dhamma that we experience within us every moment. That is Sanditthika, Akalika, Ehipasika, Opanayika quality of Dhamma. This has a very wide meaning, and we experience that very truth. Then our doubt about the Buddha who taught this, the Dhamma which we've experienced, and the Sangha who have followed this and attained the supreme enlightened states. When we see these results, all our doubt fades away, doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. That confidence makes us full of joy, which leads to happiness, and then the body and mind becomes even more calm, relaxed and peaceful, tranquil, and gain concentration. When we gain concentration, Buddha said we gain concentration because of happiness, tranquility. Sukhino chittang samadhiti, Buddha said. The one whose mind is full of happiness gains concentration. When we gain concentration, concentrated mind can see the subtlest changes taking place in us. That means the impermanence in the subtlest form, subtlest impermanence. And then our notion of self, anything permanent, will vanish from our mind. So we saw greed fades away, anger fades away, notion of self fades away, and we really gain tranquility and peace. With this, we stop talking and we try to experience these things not by force, but by natural development. They happen and we notice that. Dukkha pattaca nidukkha, bhaya pattaca nibbhaya, soka pattaca nisoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this metta wish, let us begin our Dhamma talk. I want to start the talk, although today is not questions and answer time, but yesterday there was a question which I could not answer because my memory was not that good. The person who asked the question is a memory question. So I found the answer. It is good that somebody asked me this question so that I can refresh my memory. The question is, what is after Mahasamaya? The 5 suttas after Mahasamaya. They are listed in Paritta book, Parabhava Sutta, Alava Sutta, Agika Bharadwaja Sutta, Kasi Bharadwaja Sutta, and Satya Bhanga Sutta. These are the 5 listed in Paritta book. So that is the answer to the question that I could not answer yesterday. Now today I want to start our Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and yesterday we started, day before yesterday, Wednesday. I want to continue that. We finished at the introduction. This is not a scholarly talk. This is a talk on meditation practice. If somebody wants to be a scholar, then they can read other very well-written scholarly theses and so on. However, I want to mention this discourse is a very complete discourse. It is just like presenting a very highly rated first-class paper in a scholarly paper presented in a very big conference. That kind of papers have the introduction, the body, and conclusion. And this sutta is that kind of like a paper. But it is most practical discourse. Introduction, we are still in the introduction. In the introduction section, Buddha laid down 4 foundations of mindfulness, which he explained in the body of the discourse. In this. Now, I am still in the introduction section. Day before yesterday, I said the meditator focus the mind on dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, and having subdued longing and grief for the world. This sentence is repeated for each foundation of mindfulness. Today we want to focus the mind on the feelings. When we talk about feeling, you might include sensation into feelings. Both sensation and feeling are meant when we use in the Buddha's tradition a feeling. So we just stay only with one word instead of using both sensation and feeling. We use only one word, feeling, which is more familiar to us and more consistent in the Buddha's teaching. So the meditator, here the Buddha used a bhikkhu, he. Sometimes people ask, what about she? Definitely he meant both he and she when he mentioned he. So don't anybody get offended or uh, think that Buddha was talking only about he. So whoever practices dwells contemplating feeling in the feelings, feeling in the feelings, since there are uh, different type of feelings, the meditator must focus or contemplate one at a time. One at a time. We don't bring all the feelings together at the same time. When we go into the detail, into the detail section, we will see this is very clearly stated. And also the person will contemplate the feeling. Again, ardent. Ardent is with the commitment, determination to overcome uh, defilements. That is, we will discuss later on, fourfold effort one must make from the very beginning of the practice. Uh, with fourfold effort also is stated in the Buddha's teaching. The person must determine, let my blood dries up, flesh wither away, reduce to skeleton, and yet I will not give up this practice without attaining that supreme attainment. With such a Purusha Viryena, Purusha Tamena, Purusha Parakramena, the human effort, human endeavor, human commitment, uh, one should commit. That means at the very beginning one must determine, that is called adhitthana. Adhitthana is the determination to practice, determination to stay on the course, on this train, on this track. What is the track? Track of attaining liberation. We mentioned fivefold purposes. Keeping those purposes in mind, we make a commitment, determination. And also very clearly comprehending, we clearly must comprehend the fivefold purpose of the practice. I think the fivefold purpose I mentioned on Wednesday. Let me repeat it once again. At this point, I repeat them. In future, I am not going to repeat them. The meditators should remember the fivefold purpose. The fivefold purpose is for the purification of beings, for for the surmounting sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana. These are the fivefold purpose. So clearly comprehending means every time we meditate, we must keep this fivefold purpose in mind. Of course, there may be some other additional benefits, sort of bonus, but the main purposes are five, and this we must keep them in mind. We will discuss all these things in detail later on. Then the person should be mindful. Mindful is the person keeps the mind free from greed, hatred and delusion, and seeing rising and falling, everything as they do. Then having subdued longing and grief for the world. Longing here is greed. The Pali word is abhijja. So we have to overcome greed. Abhijja is intense desire for use, so for others' property, that is covetousness. We covet for other persons' belongings. And grief for the world. World here I mentioned is these five aggregates with consciousness. So that is the Buddha's dispensation definition of the world. The third contemplation is the Buddha said he dwells. Also, I want to mention, I did not explain the word dwells. We all know dwells means living, dwelling place and so on. We say dwells means living. This is a living practice. While living we can practice it. Living is taking place from the moment we had our first breath till we breathe our last breath. All this time, it can be year, 2 years, 10 years, 50 years, 90 years, 100 years, as long as we live. This time, this period is called living, dwells. So during this entire time, in other words, we must is called dwells. He dwells. Even when we sleep, we dwells, and so forth all the time. Contemplate in the mind, in mind. We have only one mind, but it has various states of consciousness. So the last is contemplating phenomena in the phenomena. Phenomena is called Dhamma. I think the word phenomena is not very clear. It is sort of a vague in English. But for want of better term, English translators use the word phenomena, or some says states. States, phenomena, all these are not very clear in our minds as the word Dhamma. Dhamma here is the truth, even untruth also Dhamma, adhamma. But the word Dhamma covers everything that the mind can have as object. All dhammas, wholesome, unwholesome, imperturbable, and so on. All these sankharas and everything we put together as Dhamma. So the meditator must contemplate these four states and establish mindfulness in all of them. Establish mindfulness in the body, establish mindfulness in feelings, establish mindfulness in the mind, and establish mindfulness in Dhamma. All these things we will discuss in details later on. Now, so Buddha started explaining the body. So this is the introduction. In the introduction, he gave the summary of this very great paper, so to say. We call it Sutta. Sutta is also defined in many ways, but I understand Sutta means Su Ukta, well said. Sutta means something well said, well done, well presented. That is called Sutta. Uh, so the Buddha's every teaching is Su Ukta, well said. No any loopholes for somebody to correct or adjust or edit. It is complete in itself. And therefore it is called well said, Su Ukta. And in this Su Ukta or Sutta, now he presented the introduction, and then we go to the body. Body. In the body, Buddha asked a question, and how bhikkhus does the bhikkhu dwell contemplating the body in the body? So Buddha himself asked this question. He placed the four establishments of mindfulness, and then Buddha is going to explain one at a time. Take each at a time, each of these four. First one, he asks, how does one contemplating the body in the body? So he began with the breathing. So he said here, bhikkhus, having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, so he mentioned only three places: forest, foot of a tree, or an empty hut. Why did he say pick these three? Because we want to have a kind of seclusion, viveka. We all need viveka, seclusion. Forest is very good place for seclusion. Seclusion has qualities. Appasadda, appanighosa, vijanavata, manusaraseya, patisallana, sarupa. 5 qualities. Viveka has 5 qualities. Appasadda, less sound. We don't find soundless place, but we can find less sound place. You cannot find soundless place anywhere. Appanighosa, not big hustle bustle, motor vehicles, chainsaws and digging the ground and well diggers and road constructions. also need gosa. And without them, Vijanavata, without human air, that means no human beings moving back and forth in front of you or behind you, making noise with their very fine clothes, perfumes, and the quick movements, and all these things we can avoid. Vijanavata. Manusaraha Seyakani. It should be a place to hide away from human being, hide away, so that they will not ask you all kind of things and discuss and bring you to discussions. Not Dhamma discussion, even Dhamma discussion. You need, seclusion from that. Then, Patisallana Sarupani. It should be suitable for silence, mindfulness practice suitable. These are the 5 qualities, and therefore with these 5 qualities we find a forest is such a good place. There may be animals, squirrels, birds, and they are not disturbing us. We can use them as part of our meditation. Then foot of a tree. Buddha was so respecting trees, and foot of a tree gives us a shade and cool, comfortable place. Or empty house, empty hut. If you have a kuti without anybody else, and that will be good. So, if you cannot find all these things, these days perhaps you can find your own house or apartment, and you can find some quiet place in your own home or apartment. And then sit down. He recommends the practice to begin with sitting down. Other postures he introduces later, but the beginning one must sit down. How he sits down? Having folded his legs crosswise. Ujung Pallankang abhujitva. The crosswise is actually is called the lotus posture. Lotus posture is the best posture to sit for this kind of meditation. That is, one foot put on the thigh of the other leg, and the other foot put over the other thigh of your leg. So the soul will turn up, and it makes a very steady posture. Sometimes it is called lion posture, yogic posture, or lotus posture, or diamond posture. Vajrasana, Singhasana, Padmasana, Yogasana, and so forth. There are many names for that. That is number 1 posture. However, if you cannot sit in that posture, you can make it very easy, simple, cross-legged position. If you cannot do that, sit in half lotus posture. That is, tuck one foot under the thigh of the other leg and put only one foot on the thigh of the other leg. That is half lotus posture. If that is difficult, you may sit in any easy posture on a steady floor, and if you cannot sit on just floor, have a very simple cushion, maybe an inch or two high. If you cannot use any of these postures, sit on a chair, putting your feet down, close to each other. And then, ujung kayang panidhaya, the upper torso, the body must remain straight, very straight, just like your spine must be very like putting some coin one upon the other. But there is a little hunch at the lower embargo area, lumbago area, not embargo, lumbago area. There is a little hunch. So you cannot straighten that. So let it be as it is. That's a very natural hunch. And then that is the sitting posture. Then there is another word. Parimukang sating upattapetva. And set up mindfulness in front of him. What is putting said mindfulness in front? We practice mindfulness. How can we bring the mindfulness to the front? That is our breath, and that is why this section begins with the breath. Breath is not in the eyes or ears or back or head. It comes in the front, through the nose, nostrils. That is the front. And that is not all. The front is not only spatial front, is front in space, but front in time. Front in time. The present moment. So we cannot focus mind on the past or somewhere else. It has to be in front, the nostrils, and at the present moment. The present moment is the important moment. So we pay attention to the breath going in and out, this very present moment. That is what in front means. So we pay total undivided attention to the breath that goes through in and out through our nostrils. That is what in front means. Then what does he do? Just mindful, he breathes in, just mindful, he breathes out. Sato va asasati, sato va pasasati. There is a Pali very simple indeclinable called va, V-A. That is used for emphasize. Emphasize. That means with just with mindfulness breathe in, just with mindfulness breathe out. What is just mindfulness in and mindfulness out? That is abhijja domana sang vinaya, without greed and grief. Without greed we breathe in, without grief or lamentation we breathe in, without greed we breathe out. We put away our greed temporarily. We don't think of anything else which has greed. Or Anything else we don't think that has anger. So, when we are mindful, we put away both greed and anger and remain, keeping the mind in the present moment, focusing on the breath as the breath goes in and out. I mentioned and repeatedly said the breath is pure and simple. Breath is pure and simple. It does not have a greed, does not have a hatred, it doesn't have confusion. It is simple, pure, clean air moving in and out. So we like to make our mind just like this pure, simple air, clean. So for that, the best subject Buddha used is the breath. To make the mind clean and pure, we begin with the practice with focusing mind on the breath that is happening in the present moment breath. And that is the beginning of the body. And friends, I have to wind down this little talk. There can be many talks on this subject, on this discourse, because it's a very long discourse. And you can see the Buddha's wisdom, purity, enlightenment through this discourse, not only by reading but through the practice. So with this I want to conclude, and I want to conclude with what you call benediction, metta. We started with metta, we want to end it with metta. So friends, let me repeat once again, all those who are suffering, may they in many forms, many ways, many places, may they all be free from suffering, especially from this COVID-19. May they return to very normal health and continue their Dharma work to purify their mind and liberate from samsara. And there are some persons, individuals who have lost their loved ones and they are grieving. As I mentioned in the beginning of this discourse, we practice meditation to overcome grief. And using these instructions, my dear friends, all of them and others who have lost their loved ones, please use this Dhamma to overcome your grief and return to normal health and continue your Dhamma practice and try to end your grief in this very life forever. And there are others who are in hospitals also suffering from this COVID-19 and other diseases. And there are many wonderful, compassionate doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs. All these wonderful people who dedicate their lives and risk their lives, may they remain healthy to continue their selfless service and continue their Dharma work and meditate and liberate themselves from samsara. There are many leaders who are trying to help and they have helped, and some of them have recovered because of their help, and may they continue their noble service. Others who are financially supporting various research works, various organizations, various places who use this COVID-19 as an opportunity to help people. May they continue their wonderful, generous service. Some other leaders who have not yet made up their mind as to what they should do, may they have wisdom, courage, understanding, and determination to make a wise decision to help these people. With this benediction, let me end this morning session, and thank you for coming and participating. I think you will not regret if you come to these sessions. You will always gain wonderful opportunity to learn Dhamma and make yourself